All right, so today I wanted to cover something that I've noticed a lot in the forums, a lot of questions being asked about this topic. It's how to zoom in, smoothly zoom in and zoom out of a character, or how to give a little bit of a zoom effect when you're, say, looking down the sights of a weapon in like a first-person type view. So I'm going to cover a couple of techniques like that today, and what I'm going to cover should work in any kind of game you want, whether it be like a side scroller, a platformer, a first-person, third-person, whatever kind of project you're working on, these techniques should work for you. I'm just going to cover the basics, and I'm sure there's better ways to do this, but I'm going to show you in a way where you can adjust things the way you want to fit your needs. But you'll notice here I'm actually in the Epic launcher here because I want you to see it from the very start to finish how I'm going to do this. So we're actually going to launch this. Also, I'm using 4.2.1.2, but what I'm covering or what I'm about to show you should work in any version within the past couple years at least. It's very, very simple to do. So what we're going to do is do a new project here. We're going to do third person, but again, you can use this for any scenario that you really need to. So we're going to name this, what we call it, Zoom tutorial. Bam. All right, so we're going to go ahead and create this third person, no starter content. We don't really need it. And create. Awesome. So after this loads up, it's a fairly quick process. I'm going to try to stick to the script here, but I do tend to go off on tangents sometimes. So what we're going to want to do to starting out here is find our character. Here's our blueprint here, and open up the character blueprint. We're going to need to do a couple things here first. First, let me get rid of these because they bother me. I'm going to click this, type float. And what this is doing here is it creates these little tabs over here so you can actually store variables in your own little folders. If you didn't know, just a little bit of housekeeping keeps everything easy to read. Once you get a couple hundred variables in there, it gets pretty tough to navigate unless they're each in their own nifty little folder. So how you do that, if you didn't know, you click a variable underneath category over here or under the details tab, wherever you have it. This category tab here, you can put your variable wherever you want it, or if you click here, you can name your own category to start storing variables in there. I'm going to put these in a float tab so that I know that they're there, but I won't really be needing them for this tutorial. This is very messy. I haven't looked at the starting template for quite some time. Anyways, getting off topic here. Let's go ahead and zoom into the graph. Oh, you know what? First, it might help you if we set up some inputs. So what we're going to do, what we're going to cover today is setting up zooming in and out of your character and a simple zoom as if you're looking down the sights of a weapon. So how we're going to do that, we're going to go to input here. We're going to go to edit and project settings to get to this menu and scroll down to input here. And what we're going to do is under action mappings, click this little arrow and then the plus sign. So we're going to name this first one here MW up for mouse wheel up. And we're going to search for it. Mouse wheel up. I'm just typing mouse and it shows all the mouse commands. So mouse wheel up. And then we're going to do another one here. Click the plus symbol. We're going to do this for MW down. And I'm sure you can guess what that stands for. Let's go ahead and search for it. Mouse wheel down. Here we go. And one more. We're going to set this to right click, but we're going to name it R click. There we go. And click this drop down and search for mouse again. And right mouse button. Here we go. Bam. So now we have our three inputs that we're going to need for this tutorial. Compile and save. Or alternatively, you can actually hold Control Shift and press S, and it will save everything that you've been worked on. Any files that has not been saved, that completely saves your project state. So Control Shift S, very handy command. I am in a habit of doing that every few seconds because of my OCD, but my projects are always where I left them. So let's go ahead and zoom into the graph here. We're going to do a few things. We're going to start with the simple right-click zoom as if you were zooming down or looking down the sides of your weapon. So right-click, we'll do begin play because we're going to need this a little bit later. Drag this to the graph. And just to help me see things, I'm going to show you a little trick here. If I go to edit and go to editor preferences, and I scroll down a little bit here to the grid center color, I'm going to click this, drag this little slider up, put the alpha here to 0.5, click OK. There. So now the center line of my graph, see, this is white instead of black like it was. You can't really tell where the center is. I like to keep things square, and I'm sure you can see that this is disgusting. I'm going to tuck this out of the way so I don't have to see it. I'm going to drag you way up here, way out of my view. All right, so let's go ahead. Everything we're working on here is going to be in the center of the graph, just where I want it. So compile and save, Control Shift S, just to be safe. All right, so a couple things we're going to do here. This is actually not going to be used for the right-click zoom. So what we're going to do is right-click, and we're going to type R click. which is the input that we set up earlier. This is for the right mouse button, or at least that's what we set it to. And what we need to do here is click on the follow camera, not the camera boom. If you have a camera boom, this is what we're going to use for zooming in and out of the character. But for zooming in and zooming back out on a simple right click, we're going to use the camera here because it works best in my experience. But you may fare better by using the camera boom. If you would like to know how to use the camera boom to do this later, please let me know and I'll do a tutorial on that as well. It's pretty easy, but it is dramatically different on how you go about doing it. So for now, click camera, and here where it says field of view, this is our starting point, so 90. What we're going to do is on begin play, let's drag out the camera here. We're going to get field, if I could type, get field of view. What we're going to do is create a variable here and set this field of view. And we're going to change this to a float. You know what? We're going to have to name this something different then. Cam FOV. That might work a little bit better. Cam FOV. Bam. There we go. Compile and save. What we'll do is on begin play, we're going to set this variable to whatever our camera's FOV is. And the reason we do this, because technically we can leave all this out and what I'm about to show you will work, but it'll be a hassle if for any reason the end player decides to change their starting FOV, then it's going to throw off their zoom completely. So this fixes that issue. So we're going to use this here. When we press the right click button, what we're going to do is right click and add a timeline. Do timeline. And we're going to name this aim, as if you were aiming down a weapon. And we're going to drag off the pressed, and it's going to play. And when you release the zoom button, it's going to reverse. All right, we're going to double click the timeline. Click this little this function add button. We're going to set our zoom to happen over the course of 0.25 seconds. Oh my Lord, what just happened? Delete that. All right, so up here, 0.25, enter. Awesome. So we're going to right click here in the gray and add a key. And what we're going to do is, remember, when we click our camera here, the starting is 90. So this first point, it's going to happen at 0 seconds. Zero that out. And the value is going to be 90. And we're going to add a second point just by right clicking and add key to curve. Click this. Put the time. The second point in these graphs is always going to be the length here. So the time, we're going to do 0.25. Bam. So start to finish. Click these. These buttons here just kind of make the graph fill the screen. If you've never worked with timelines before, it's pretty easy. So if you just click, right click and hold, you can drag it out so you can see your different points. Here's our first one and here's our second one. But if you just click these, it fits it to the screen. So our second point here is going to be however much we want to zoom in. If we want to zoom in by 20 units, then we subtract 20 from this. So right now, let me go ahead and compile and save. Let's see. So it's 90. So we want to make the second point is 70. Completely lost my train of thought. Bam. All right. And now this is good. We can exit this. So as long as the first one is 9, the first one is going to be your FOV, and the second one is going to be what you want to zoom in to, which is 70. I like to minus 20. You can subtract more if you would like. The lower this second number, the more you're going to zoom in. So we can actually exit this here. All right. And we're going to drag off update. No, we're not. We're going to select this, the follow camera and the field of view. Actually, just the follow camera. We can just drag it out here. Drag out another follow camera. Click set field of view right here. Bam. And this part is literally as simple as just connecting update to this and connect these two green ones, these float values. And if you don't know what's happening, this timeline, what it's doing is taking the value of 90 here, and over the course of 0.25 seconds, a quarter of a second, it's going to move down to 70. It's going to subtract 20 over the course of 0.25 seconds. That's what a timeline does. It kind of smoothly moves between two different numbers. Usually it's floats. They're the easiest to work with floats. You can do other things with them, but we'll mostly use them for floats. So right now, let me go ahead and set up my viewport real quick. If we go to advanced settings here, click this drop down, click advanced settings, check this first one. Otherwise, every single time you click play, you're gonna have to click into the viewport to play it, which is annoying. All right, and then down here to new window size, I set this to 1900 by 1040, but you can set this to whatever you would like. Just I use widescreen monitors, and this fits best for my use case. You can set that to whatever you want. So if we drop down here and click new editor window, we can see that it is full screen and fits perfectly within my monitor here. So right now, if I right click and let it go, see it's zooming in by 20 units. right click, and let it go. Perfect. So over the course of 0.25 seconds, it zooms in by 20 units. We set it to 20 units, but just to show you an example, this one here, it's set to 70. If I was to set this to 50, it is going, this first number here is 90. It's going to subtract from 90 all the way down to 50 over the course of 0.25 seconds. So if we play, right click, there we go. So it's zooming in by 40 units, which is insane. Usually 20 is pretty good for looking down sight. So we're going to stick to 70 here. Compile and save. Bam. So there's the right click, simple zoom. Right click, let it go. Perfect. And we can just do as fast as we want. No glitches or errors. It's very smooth. Super simple and easy to set up. Now, that was the first part of the tutorial. And this we really didn't use. I guess I could actually cover that real quick. Let's go over that. So what this is for, this right currently, as you'll notice, isn't actually being used. But so what's going to happen here? Let's say on my camera, let's say I wasn't playing at 90. Let's say I was playing at 80 because I like being able to see more, right? So when I play, I can see a little bit more. It's a little bit zoomed in, or I see a little less actually. It's a little zoomed in. Right now, this is set up to start from 90 and go to 70, regardless of what it is currently set to. So what we're going to do instead, if you would like to fix this issue, is open up this here. We're going to grab the first point and set the value to 0. Yep. There we are. And set the second value to how many units you want to subtract. So if you want to zoom in by 20 units, then set this to 20, which is currently what I was using. So we're going to stick with that. We're going to stick with the 20 units. But again, the higher this number, the more you're going to zoom in. So let's go ahead and compile and save, and we can close this. So right now, we need to grab the camera FOV, get camera FOV, and drag off this. And we are going to do float minus float right here. And we're going to connect this up. Bam, exit that. Drag this up here and connect these two. So what it's doing is the current FOV, whenever the game starts, it's going to set this FOV variable to whatever the player has it set, right? That way, whenever you right click, it's just going to subtract 20 from this variable and set your field of view. So for instance, right now, for some reason, if I was playing on 60, right? If the player was playing on 60 and they wanted to be this zoom in, when I right click, it's just going to zoom in from here. If I didn't have this set up, whenever the player right clicked, it would bounce back. And in fact, I can show you what it would look like if you don't set this up. So let's say the character for some reason wants to play at 60. Let me just put this back. Ignore this. I'm going to go to 90. Put this back to 70. All right, so now, see that? It's kind of messed up. That's the kind of stuff that happens. Oh, actually, you know what? I kind of goofed that one. There we go. Let's try that. So right now, for some reason, this is the way the character wants to play. If I was to right click, it starts from 90 and goes down to 70, regardless of what they have it set. So that's how we fix that issue. So we'll put this to 0. Put this up to, we said 20. There we go. So over the course of 0.25 seconds, it's going to subtract 20 units. All right, we can exit this, connect these back up. If you hold Alt on the keyboard and click any link here, it kind of deletes it. There we go. Connect these and connect that. Bam. So now whenever the characters, they can have the player can have their FOV set to whatever they want, and it will zoom no matter what that setting is. So there, this is perfect. Now that is the first part of the tutorial. Now we're going to go ahead and cover zooming in and out from the player itself. And for this, we're going to use the camera boom here. And the main thing we're going to be working with is this target arm length here. Notice how it's 300. The bigger this number, the further away this is. So right now, this is 300 from the character, which is standard. If we up this to say 600, bam, now it's twice as far away from the character. If we put it down to 100, it's super close to the character. But it's standard at 300. We're going to go ahead and keep it to that. So if we click play, this is the standard 300 units away. If we wanted that at 600, let's go ahead and set it to 600, which is what I'm going to keep it at. This is pretty standard for me when I'm working with third-person projects. Click play here. So this is about 600 away. I feel like this is pretty decent. You can see enough in the screen. But also, we're going to add the capability to, also our right click is still there too as well, I guess. But we're going to add the ability to roll the mouse wheel up and down and zoom in and out of the character respectively, depending on, you know, how close and far away we want to be. We want to give our players that option, as well as this right click zoom option, which is also really nice. So we're going to exit this. Our camera boom is set to 600. So in the very same way that we set our camera FOB, we're going to do the same thing for our camera boom here. So we're going to create a variable and name this. When you're working with this here, let's drag this out so you can see. It's called target camera offset. So if we drag off this and do get target arm length, I'm sorry, target arm length, bam. Cover this up. And what we're going to do here is name this is cam arm length. There we go. We're going to drag this out here and set it. And again, we're doing this for the exact same reasons we were doing for the other zoom, because this way the character can start, you know, if they want to start from 600, that's fine. If they want to start from 300, that's fine. It'll work either way. So we can slide this off to the side just so you guys don't get confused here. We're going to stick it over here. Right there we go. Compile and save, or Control-Shift-S to be safe. Bam. So we're going to right click and do MW up. That's what we named it. So whenever we roll the mouse wheel up, this is going to fire. And what we're going to do is add another timeline here, because timelines are our favorite for these kind of things. And we're going to name this zoom in. And this gets a little bit more complicated than just the right click zooming. So we're going to need a few variables for this. We're going to create one, make it a Boolean, and we're going to call this cam zoom. Actually, cam zooming, so that way we know what it means. We're going to add this to a Boolean folder, just like that. There we go. Actually, you know what? We're going to put all the variables we're making here into a template. We'll call it template. And we can just drag these to the folder we just made, this template folder here, so that I know that whatever I'm working on, bam, all right here. Cool. Compile and save. So we're going to drag out, or if we hold B on the keyboard and click, it creates a branch. And we're going to create a branch first. So what we want to do here, let's compile and save because of my OCD. Now, the reason we did this, we're going to drag this out and get it. If the camera is in the process of zooming when we press the zoom button, nothing's going to happen. So if this is true, nothing. We're not going to attach this to anything. But if it is not currently zooming, we are going to start zooming. So we're going to set this to true and start zooming. Play from start. So we're going to straighten this out here because of our OCD. Straighten. Bam. There we go. Compile and save. Awesome. So whenever we roll the mouse wheel up, this is going to happen. So let's go ahead and open up our timeline here and see what we want to do. Click this little function. Now this is going to be different than our other. And why does it keep doing that? That's the second time, huh? Oh, it must be a bug. Or my mouse is broken. One of the two. So 0.25. It's my favorite time. All right. We're going to add a key. Right click and click add key. Set this to there we are. Set this to 0 and value of 0. Add another key. We're going to add this however many units we want to zoom in. Oh, this second point is going to be 0.25. I messed up. So your second point is 0.25, the same as this length here. And the value is going to be however much we want to zoom in. I'm going to use 100, but you can use whatever you would like. If we click these, we can see it. Compile and save. So over the course of 0.25 seconds, this key is going to rise up to 100. All right, so save. Awesome. And now what we're going to do is, since this is set up here, we can actually just get it out here. So here is the cam arm length. Get it? We're going to subtract it just like we did before. So float minus float right here. Connect these two. But this time, for the right click zoom, remember we set up with the FOV. For the camera boom, or for the zooming in and out of the player, we're going to use the camera boom, and we're going to use this target arm length variable here. So we can actually grab our camera boom, drag it out here, drag off and click set target arm length. Here it is right here. Drag that there. And we're going to drag off the update pin and connect this. Make sure this is nice and pretty and straightened out. There we are. And connect these two here. Awesome. So now we need to do something a little extra that we actually didn't do. If you notice here, when we right click and zoom in, we didn't need anything off the finish pin because there was no real need to. But here we need to. So we're going to drag off or drag out this cam arm length, our variable here, and set it. Drag off finished, attach this. There we go. And we need to set the current camera boom's arm length. Whatever this number is, the new variable is going to be set here to this arm length. That way it holds our current zoom position. And this looks a little messy. I know it's hard to read, and I apologize for that. I'm trying to keep it as readable as I can. In fact, if I drag this down, might be a little bit better. I don't know. I'll put it back for now. All right, compile and save. Also, we need to drag off zooming here. Set this to false. So what this is doing, when we roll the mouse wheel up, it's going to see if the camera is currently zooming, which means if this is happening. If this is not happening, it's going to start. See, if it is happening, there's nothing attached to true, and there we go. If this is false, all of this is going to fire. So let me zoom in here. Bam. And it's going to subtract whatever the current arm length is, which is 600. It's going to subtract 100 from that value over the course of 0.25 seconds. That might sound extremely confusing, but it will make sense. This is just a function to do something over the course of time. Whatever time you provide it, I'm using 0.25 seconds, and it's going to subtract 100. So right now, if we were to save and play this, so I roll the mouse wheel up, it zooms in by 100. But you'll notice we can just keep zooming in with no real percussion. We can just keep zooming in by an extra 100, and it gets kind of insane. And we can't zoom out. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. What we want to do here is drag out the camera boom, connect this here, and we're going to get the target arm length again. So get target arm length right here. And if this part always confuses me. We're going to go ahead and delete this here, drag down here, and this is going to take me a second. This, for some reason, I always get this backwards. If this is greater than or equal to the minimum, whatever minimum it is, however close you want it to be. For me, I usually use 300, but you can use whatever you would like. If this is greater than 300, or, no, it's always going to be greater than 300. This needs to be less than. If this is less than or equal to, not greater than, if it's less than or equal to 300, or, drag off this and type or and find the or boolean, or you're currently zooming. So if you are either zooming or you're already at your minimum, then nothing will happen. That's what this or thing does. So let's go ahead and straighten this up. Right click and straighten. Drag this down here. Bam. Nice and pretty. So now what's going to happen is we can only zoom in until our arm length is at 300. See, I cannot zoom in anymore, and I'm rolling the mouse wheel up. I also can't zoom out, but I can still right click, which that will always be there. But I can't zoom out or in anymore. So now what we're going to do is set the zoom out function. This pretty much completes it for the zooming in function. And I know this, again, it's a little confusing, but if you understand what's happening, it shouldn't be too hard to recreate this. And it's a video, so you can slow it down or rewind it, do whatever you need to. All right, so what we're going to do the zoom out function is select all of this and scroll down a little bit. We're going to Control W to paste it. Let's go ahead and line all this up. Again, my OCD in action. Now what we're going to need to change is, see this, we're going to need to change mouse wheel up, right click and do MW down. So whenever we roll the mouse wheel down, this is going to fire. Same things, except this time we don't want it to subtract, and this is crooked. There we go. We don't want this to subtract. So under the cam length here, this track, we're going to click it, delete it. We're going to drag off this and click the plus, float plus float. This is what we want. So instead of subtracting 100, it's going to add 100 to our arm length. Now that should be the only thing we really need to change there, and as well as this. So right now, we need to set the max distance we want. I like to use 600 or 700, but it's really up to you. I will use 600 for now, just to show you. So we'll click this and delete it, drag out. If this is greater than or equal to 600, which is our max, or you know what, we'll do 700 just to demonstrate. So once it reaches 700 units long, it won't be able to zoom out anymore. So let's go ahead. Oh, we got to rename this. Click it. We click F2 on the keyboard to rename. We'll name it zoom out so that we always know what our timeline does. And the reason is because it shows them, yeah, see right here under components, it actually shows our timelines. If you don't name the timelines, it'll just say timeline 1, timeline 2, and it might get confusing as to what they do. So we can see here that there's the aim, and in fact, we'll put aim with the rest of them down here. Let's go ahead. Bam. So this is our aim function, and if you would like, you can put a comment around them. Just press C on the keyboard, but I'm not going to do that for now. So we have our zoom in and out functions here, and we have our aim function here. Let's go ahead and test it. If we click play, roll the mouse wheel up, we can zoom in, and it'll stop once we get 300 units close. Now let's roll the mouse wheel out and see, there we go. And it'll only zoom out until we're 700 units away. Now, if you want to zoom in closer or further, all you have to do is change these two variables here. And in fact, if you wanted to get really creative, you could just create two variables, one for your min distance. And in fact, I'll do it just to show you. This is absolutely unneeded, but what we'll do is cam, oh, come on, let me rename you. Cam min distance. Again, you can name it whatever you want. And then one for cam max distance. And what we'll do is connect the min distance and go down here and connect the max distance. There we go. Compile and save. Now, if we just do the max distance of what, 700 units away. Actually, we'll do 1200 units for now. So we can zoom out 1200 units. And the minimum distance is going to be 200 units from the player. So compile and save. And if we play this now, we can zoom in until we're 200 units away. We can zoom out until we're 1200 units away. That's what those variables did that we just set up. It's very, very simple and easy to do. Very modular, so you can actually just change these things. And it makes it easier if you have functions in the game. You know, you can just change the variable instead of, you could add these to user interfaces, whatever you want to do. But yeah, that should pretty much cover the tutorials that I wanted to do today. We got the aiming here, and we got zooming in and out. Perfect. Because I see those two questions quite a bit on the forums of how to do them, and they're relatively simple, but usually I see some difficult explanations, and I thought I would throw my hat into the ring. But anyways, if I didn't explain something that you want to know, or if I went too fast, please let me know in the comments, and I'll try to rectify that. Try to answer your questions as best as I can, or if you want me to do other tutorials, let me know if you have any ideas for that. But yeah, that should cover everything, and I will see you guys next time.